because your brain is always seeking homeostasis, where everything is balanced just right. Now, if I'm
Right.
introducing a ton of chemistry that fiddles with my neurotransmitters, your brain's still seeking homeostasis, so it'll stop producing those naturally because they're already there. So how
Wow.
does the brain produce them? By changing the wiring. If I need more serotonin, I change my circuitry so I create more serotonin. If I have a flood of it, I change my circuitry so I don't. So now once I stop taking the drug, I'm likely in a different brain state, wiring-wise, than I was before I took the drug.
Welcome to Shift Talking, a podcast where we explore the art and science of behavior change. I'm your host, Davina Hain, a mental health coach and founder of A Steady Space. Join me as we discuss actionable tips, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you create lasting change once and for all. Now, let's get to the Shift Talking. Hi, and welcome back to Shift Talking. Today is an episode that I have been waiting to share with you. The innovation behind this company, which is Nubellum, is incredible. I had never heard of it before. And so I have this interview with Carl Dietz, who's one of the founders, and it is just mind-blowing and so encouraging. And each time I listen back to it and with each conversation he and I had, I get so much more of a full chest moment. And I hope that that comes through for you as well. We did have to record this 3 times for various reasons. So you might notice some of the audio fluctuating throughout it. And it's really just because I took bits and pieces from each interview and consolidated them into one. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's jump right in. Here is Carl. I'm so excited to have you here. I've been looking forward to meeting you for so long.
Well, I'm really happy to be here, and I love the work you're doing. I've been to the website, and what's that crazy word you use, shift? I love that word. I almost thought of it as one of the keywords in the app we're creating. Maybe shift should work in the name of the app. But after 2 or 3 months, it's so hard, to get names going. But the team finally settled in on a name. I'm starting to like the name of our app more. It comes out January, February. So
That's
5
so
years
exciting.
in the making, January and February, it's on the market. I'm so happy about that.
Are you going to release the name ahead of time?
I don't think so, because it's, Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
Yes.
And I can't remember some of the episodes in my life, but where you tell someone something a little too early and then boom, they grab it. For example, I remember, forget that story. Let's stick on the topic. I like to wander through the life of Carl, with all these stories. Yeah. So
I also did notice that you refer to yourself in the third person.
I do that. Not always. Yeah. I own me. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
No, I think it's good to switch around.
Keep it interesting.
Yeah, it's true. But I sort of, I think you're onto something when you notice how I speak, is that I don't put much thought into how should I present myself. I just rather be me. Everyone says that, it's so cliche, just be yourself. But sometimes it's hard to be yourself, but not for Carl. So if I refer to myself in the third person, now I get to try to notice it, but I don't really want to change it. I'm happy with the way I am. So,
I don't think, and that's exactly what we, like, even to your point about the shift part, like the S being the self-awareness and just the awareness of myself, that's the point, right? It's not having to learn about ourselves and change any of it, especially to appease others. It's more so about just me learning what I like and what I don't like, and I'll keep what resonates, what I want to keep, and leave what doesn't. I love that. I respect that. I'm way too much in my head.
Right.
I will eventually get to a question of like, am I faking my authenticity? And it's like, okay, girl, like you can put that down.
That is a really
you're trying way too hard.
Question. that you can go down the vortex on that one.
I do often.
Authenticity. Yeah,
I know.
Really
it's
true.
just, if I would just let myself exist, I think I would have a much more peaceful existence without questioning everything.
Yeah, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah. So tell me all about Nubellum.
Okay, so Nubellum was founded in 2020, and our idea was to try to develop tools that help people use their consciousness to control the physiology of their body, in particular, things like anxiety, depression, insomnia, mood disorders of all kinds, anger, anything that you find is a negative expression of a feeling. We believed by the time we founded the company that you could use your own conscious mind to tamp those things down and feel well again. That was the premise. Now, how did we get there? Why did we think that was possible? Because we were involved, the team and I were involved in different ways in clinical research for most of our careers. One of our founders is a medical doctor who's also the owner of a clinical research organization that does studies of drugs for big pharma. She's in the Netherlands. But she's also a holistic healer in addition to being an MD. And she's also a big believer that people can heal themselves, both physically and mentally. So when I brought Vivian the information that I had about the placebo effect, she understood the placebo effect as a clinician who is studying drugs, double-blind studies. Half of us get the placebo, half of us get the drug. No one knows for sure who's got what, but somehow the people taking the blank pill do almost as well as the people taking the molecule by the time the study's unblinded. So she knew all of that deeply, and I had fresh research that shared with her that even if you know you're taking a placebo, you get the same numbers. You get 60 to 70 out of 100 respond, even though they were told you're getting a placebo. So that sort of broke the whole mythological mold that placebos have to be a trick. And that was the initial motivation I had to go deeper into that research, because you kind of wonder, how far does that go? Like, for example, can you heal by taking a blank pill without going to the doctor? Most of these blank pills are taken in a clinical setting. So you're sort of confounding the taking of the pill with, I'm in a medical environment. I have an expert telling me to do it. I have the smells and sights and sounds of a doctor's office. And all those things work on the brain to produce the healing response. So let's just say what is it? What is the placebo response? It's your brain's natural healing response, recognizing that you want to feel better and you know what you're doing is to feel better. Like taking this pill is to feel better. So your mind knows your intention because it's conscious of your intention, but it transmits the message to the unconscious mind, and somehow, magically, your brain start releasing the chemistry that it always had to get better. And that's another point to make about the clinical research has found, and especially in the last 10 years, when we can peek inside people's brain while they're thinking and doing stuff, we can actually see the neurons firing. If we want to see a particular neuron, we put a particular little radioactive dye in that only responds to that type of neuron. So we can watch dopamine dropping. We can watch endorphins dropping. We can see the neurons dropping these neurotransmitters. So when you think about it, your brain has a pharmacy ready to go. Before you even start healing, it's ready to go. And the trick is how to open the pharmacy and take the drug right out of your brain. So opioids in a pill are just imitating and often generating your brain to open the pharmacy and drop the real stuff. So that's how it works. Your brain's full of pharmaceutical drugs you don't need to buy, and they can make you feel better. The trick is to get the message into your brain, and that's what the healing response, the placebo effect, is. So you see doctors today saying...
Can I pause you there?
Yeah.
I have a question. How did they figure out that they didn't need to be tricked in order to have the placebo work?
They figured it out by generating a protocol in a clinical study. A clinical study is just a whole bunch of instructions that we're going to repeat for every patient, and instructions how to repeat the process with every nurse and with every doctor. So all the participants in a clinical trial are following a protocol, just like a standard operating procedure. So when they found out that this is going early on before most of the open label, and that's what we call it. When you know you're taking a placebo, we call it an open label placebo. It means that the label says there's nothing in it. Okay. When they were doing clinical studies of big drugs like Ambien and Wellbutrin and Prozac, the big selling drugs, they understood, the clinical researchers understood, people like Vivian, that most patients figure out which one they're on. They really do. Like, I'm supposed to not know whether I'm on the drug arm of the study or I'm on the placebo arm. It's supposed to be completely hidden. Unfortunately, it's hard to keep a secret because I'm getting side effects and I feel that those are the same side effects they warned me I could get if I'm on the drug. Therefore, I believe I'm on the drug, even though I'm not going to tell the nurse, I'm not going to tell the doctor. I think I know I'm on the drug. And most of the guessing is correct. They're mostly guessing they are on the drug, and they are. But also the people without the drug are getting the same side effects because the brain is able to generate those as well as healing. So if someone gives you a banana and tells you you're going to...
Yes.
So they're figuring it out. And they're figuring it out. And they find out, like, I'm looking at my side effects in the study, and on the placebo arm, I'm like, my God, they got a lot of side effects that happen to be the same ones we warned you about. But how could that be? They didn't take anything. So those early years, and the early years go from 1964, when the federal governments and regulators of all the world said, we're not going to let you sell drugs if you don't prove with a double-blind study that the drug outperforms the blank pill. So starting in 1964, we got 100,000 clinical studies to look at. And it's just constantly the same information. Certain drugs don't need the placebo effect. And those drugs, you don't even need to know you're taking them. You just could slip it into your coffee and they'd work great. But the
like
other
what?
drugs,
what do you mean there?
like, for example, a beta blocker, statin. You know, we know the beta blocker will take any human being and it'll lower their blood pressure. And a statin will take any human being and lower their cholesterol. And hopefully just the bad cholesterol, not the good. And they do all these studies to make the tweaks to the pills. But if I give you a beta blocker, I don't have to tell you you're taking it. For example, Ozempic is a really popular drug now. It's super effective for diabetics type 2. Better than metformin. Metformin was the standard of care for 60 years. But now this Ozempic thing will just drop your A1C down like nothing else. And you don't have to know you're taking it to get the drop. Those are the kind of drugs we're talking about that don't need a placebo effect.
Okay.
All the other drugs that make us a lot of money in pharmaceutical business are the ones that come with a psychiatrist. You know, for example, the psychiatrist trying different ones to see which ones you respond to, which ones have the bad side effects. And remember, I mentioned that you can get the side effects from expecting the side effects.
Right.
So you don't even know if that side effect is psychological or metabolic. We don't even know for sure. No one knows. Okay, so back to the placebo response that you asked me. How did they think up how to try telling you you're having a placebo? Okay, that body of knowledge said, I wonder what it would be like if I just told them. Let's just tell them they're taking a placebo. And the guy who really started taking this seriously was in 2011. The first study he published was Ted Kaptchuk, a researcher at Harvard Medical School, who put together a study for irritable bowel syndrome. And he had good reason to believe that irritable bowel syndrome wasn't a reaction to foods the way the sufferers think it is. He had some reason to believe it might not be that. And I'm going to combine that knowledge I have with placebos. I tell him it's placebos. So he did all he could to make the study have all the trappings of a real drug study with a real drug. Even though I'm going to tell you, Davina, you're going to take a blank pill, I want you to also know you have to take it 3 times a day. Okay? You can't just take it once a day. You have to take it 3 times a day, imitating the trappings of a real drug. Okay. Because a real drug, you're trying to catch the wave of it. It enters your body, it reaches the peak, it drops to the half-life, and it's gone.
Right.
So then he then tells the patients, but if you're going to eat a meal, a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner in particular, make sure you take it 30 minutes before the meal. Now, you can just see the kind of hocus pocus he's trying to create.
Yeah, like this whole regimen.
Yeah, it's a blank pill.
Yeah.
When you take it, whatever, right? So take it. If you skip the meal, just make sure you take 3 a day. And if you're going to have a meal, make sure you do it 30 minutes. Now, what he's trying to do is keep you thinking about the treatment. Like, I got to remember to take my pill just like you would with the real pill, right? So he put all the trappings together. And by the way, you're being paid to be in this study. This is a serious study. But if you don't come in and meet with me every week and on this and that, you don't get your money. And make sure you come in because our study depends on you. And so you're like, I'm participating in a study. And the idea that it's a phony pill is just sort of disappearing into the background. And you're just taking a protocol and a treatment. And by the way, I love my doctor. Ted's a great guy. Can't wait to see him next week. And the nurses he has are so kind. You know, it's everything going good. So he hits the same mark, what we call an endpoint in clinical research, where you reach a degree of relief that we were trying for. And he gets 69 out of 100 people hits the endpoint. And that's a whole lot of people feeling better on a blank pill with their belief that there is no pill that can help me. It's only avoiding the foods that can help me. But they just find that they're better. So let's close that study and go back forward 6 months. And he's following up with the patients. Most of them have gone back to their original situation. So in other words, they've regressed back to the normal symptoms that got them to qualify for the study. But then he found when he brought those patients in and boosted them again with some blank placebos, about half of them would get back to their endpoint again. So he doesn't, at this 2011 stage, he doesn't know, and no one really thinking, why is that? Why is that happening? But now with the fMRI getting stronger and better and cheaper, most importantly cheaper, less expensive to do in a university lab, you know, watching your brain, it's not going to cost me $10,000 a day. It's only going to cost me $100. So that fMRI data starts coming in from more universities with fMRI machines, and they say, well, we can see the drugs that are dropping out of the brain's pharmacy when they take the placebo. So now we see the physicality connection. It's not just some psychological on your head thing. You're using your conscious mind to deliver something to your physical body for the purpose of making you feel better. Now, this is all happening a decade before Nubellum, because now you're starting to see, well, why would Carl start Nubellum? Because Ted's study was really interesting. People loved it all over Europe. People started doing open label placebo studies. He's doing another study. He does one on anxiety, and he keeps finding this magical point that's like 50 to 70% respond, but the others don't. Now, remember, in clinical studies, we try to pick people in the study that are as much the same as we can find. We don't want to just pollute the study with some kids, some adults, some seniors, some blind people, no, we try to get like a homogeneous little collection of people, which is impossible, but we do it.
Right.
In clinical science, we do it, but it's impossible. So all the study is really showing you is that when the drug depends on your conscious mind to help, you're never going to get one drug, one protocol that'll help everyone, because everyone is totally different, and what works for me doesn't work for you. You know, you may like meditating, I may hate meditating. So anything to do with meditating is not going to work for me. I won't even do it. I'm not really that guy. I'm pretending. Okay, so back to the studies. So when Nubellum was founded, we wanted to see mainly in the first year, how well would we do if we didn't have the trappings of a clinical research site? In other words, there is no doctor telling you how to do it. It's self-care. You're just getting a bottle, and you're being told the protocol, take it like Ted told you, telling you to do it, and we're giving you a little scorecard to write down how you're doing, and we're making sure you send the scorecard in so we can analyze it. And we just wanted to see if we could generate the placebo response without the trappings of a medical intervention, just by you having a little bottle. Now, there was lots of evidence that we could, because a lot of people take nutritional supplements, a vitamin C pill when the cold's coming on. They're doing a lot of things that scientists know they are not physically helping you at all. They're mentally and psychologically making you have confidence. So you're not really killing the cold. You're just enjoying the idea that you might not get the cold. So anyway, we found that the biggest problem in the first couple of years of the company was this. People just lost interest. We weren't paying them. There was no way to make sure that they were going to get better. So they just started thinking. And when we followed up with people who dropped out of the study in the first 2 weeks, they all fell into the category of, I didn't really think it's going to work for me. And sometimes I'd forget to take it. And so I gave up. And sorry, I hope I didn't disappoint you. But it's okay, because that's what we were studying. We weren't studying whether Ted Kaptchuk's original research was valid. We already knew it was valid. We were studying whether people could just on their own use placebos. So when we got to the end of the study, and out of 100, well, we'd start with 200 people who wanted to be in it. Then when they found out they're not getting paid, we only had 100. And then by the time they had to do an informed consent and do some legal documents to be in the study, we reached down to like 50. And by the time we'd send the pills out, we would only get like 20 would do their first check-in. So there was a lot of reasons to drop out, and it's not about placebo. It's about clinical studies and how to make them work.
Yeah.
So the 20 that got better every time we got 100 enrolled and 50 starting it, the ones that got better really hit that 60 to 70% number. They all just do. They just do. Wow. So most people will respond to the cultural influences that we've all been given. Like everyone, if you ask 100% of people, do pills have any effect on the body? They all go, yes, 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 pills can have an effect. So these are all cultural beliefs. You don't have any scientific proof that pills have helped the body. You just have, they help me, they help my mom, they help my friends, the doctors sell them on TV. So these are all cultural influences on our behavior. So anyway, we got to the point where we were fascinated by how could we help people get better if they didn't want to stick to a protocol. Well, how could we? We didn't want to just say, well, it's too few people who do better if they have to follow a protocol. And then we started doing more research in when do people feel better. And it's usually at the very beginning of a behavioral treatment. So if it's going to work for you, it usually starts working right away. If it's not going to work for you and the doctor, the psychiatrist gives you like 6 weeks on Wellbutrin, he already knows you're not reporting the right progress, but he's thinking, well, it could be the side effects you're reporting, and maybe the side effects go away. The drug company told me the side effects go away. So if I just keep you on the pill that's not working, the side effects will go away and it'll start working. And sometimes that works. But it's a hot mess. There's no really good data saying that we should, any of us, be taking antidepressants. Yet, when I say that, everyone who hears me thinks I'm saying antidepressants don't work. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying your own mind-body connections making them work, and you're suffering from the side effects of a molecule that you could probably get going without. Like you could probably feel better without that dirty little molecule. In fact, they call it...
Okay, so what I'm...
Yeah.
Hang on, I want to make sure I understand. So you're saying that that we don't necessarily need to take the pharmaceutical for things like depression and anxiety, that we can and we will likely still benefit, but then we're also getting the negative effects of it.
Correct. That's really what I'm saying. But we could
also achieve the same kinds of positive side effects, or like what we're actually looking to target on our own without having to add it in.
If only you could find out what works for you, because it's a really powerful belief when a pill has been approved and validated and told that it's going to work. You create a very powerful sort of a meme in the brain of the guy who's going to try it. The excitement of knowing I finally got the prescription, the excitement of knowing it could work, and it's a really powerful one. So what I would summarize with all antidepressants, and I'm in the same camp as every honest researcher in the world today, I would say they're placebos with built-in side effects. And that's not a dirty word. The placebo, this built-in side effect, is the dirty word. The placebo means they're capable of triggering your brain's natural healing response. That's what that means. So they generate a natural healing response with a side effect, and some of them very dangerous side effects, like Ambien can kill you. That's a big problem. And if you get so hooked on Ambien that you think it is what you need to sleep, you just won't tell anyone you're taking it every night, even though everyone says don't take it every night, and you'll find like 2 different prescribers to give you enough to take it every night. I mean, it's a really sad thing. I mean, Michael Jackson really died of this kind of a problem, of find the most powerful and expensive way to put me to sleep and then wake me up. But he didn't really stop and think, Michael, sleeping is the most natural thing in the world. If I just change my lifestyle, I could just enjoy a long, healthy life. But he was so busy making movies, making songs, and he just needed to get that sleep. We all know the story of Michael Jackson. He took really dangerous drugs to put him to sleep. He needed a doctor there watching him all night, then a dangerous drug to wake him up and go out and do it. It's an extreme example of taking a placebo with all these crazy, dirty side effects. That's what we
And then
now call,
also,
yeah.
sorry, can I pause you? So also
Yeah.
there, what I'm also hearing is that even if we don't need to take that formulation in order to get the benefit of it, we're also now creating a physical dependency in our body that now our body needs it. Is that accurate?
Sometimes. Not all
Okay.
drugs create a physical dependency. There are many drugs that do. But
Okay.
all drugs, this is more dangerous, all drugs change the wiring of your brain. Because your brain is always seeking homeostasis, where everything is balanced just right. Now, if I'm
Right.
introducing a ton of chemistry that fiddles with my neurotransmitters, your brain's still seeking homeostasis, so it'll stop producing those naturally because they're already there. So how does the brain produce them? By changing the wiring. If I need more serotonin, I change my circuitry so I create more serotonin. If I have a flood of it, I change my circuitry so I don't. So now once I stop taking the drug, I'm likely in a different brain state, wiring-wise, than I was before I took the drug. No one knows if that's like permanent. No one knows if it's hard wiring now or if it's soft wiring. But it's really a dangerous thing to fiddle with your brain's wiring. And that's why we have anxiety, because we've fiddled with our brain's wiring to the point where the world outside our perception is bugging the shit out of us. And when I say that, I'm talking about our stress levels are high. We're not even conscious, but our autonomic nervous system is firing fight or flight constantly. And it's never learning how to just tamp that down and go into rest and digest, which would be homeostasis. So the drugs I'm not as worried about the addiction side of it, because that becomes quite obvious. Oh my God, I'm getting addicted. I got to get help. That's a problem, getting help. But that's the problem. I'm more worried about what we do to the wiring of our brains that we never see and feel, and we just become different people. That's a more serious issue, And your brain is a very delicate but resilient organ. It's delicate yet resilient. It's constantly hoping and trying its best to feel good. That's why this whole behavioral activities that make you feel good are so effective immediately rather than 6 months later. So anyway, that's where Nubellum started.
Okay.
We're in a really mature place now, because we've got 200 or more validated healing behaviors. They're non-pharmacological, they're non-drug. You can do them in a minute or two, and we don't know which one would work for you, but you'll know when you try one. So if we give you something to try for 60 seconds.
So you guys aren't doing any sort of like blank pill substitute for these types of things.
This is one of the big insights. We realized you don't need a pill, because there's a million ways to feel better without a pill. And now there's nothing wrong with a blank pill. Think about it. I mean, it's blank pill, right? So
and what is the blank pill? Like, what is it actually made of?
People make them out. When I say people, I'm talking about clinical trial people. They make them out of basically two things: cellulose or rice hull. And the rice grain has a little hole around it, HULL. And you can take that and you can either use it to make like concrete, or you get so much of it, you can make anything. But if you take really good care of the rice when you're processing it, you can have sort of a clinical grade rice hull. And if you grind it up, it's a non-soluble fiber, so it doesn't impact anything in your body. It just moves through your body. There's no nutrition, there's no interaction, and it's like fiber, taking fiber. So if you really want to be totally blank, you would not use the microcellulose, which is a chemistry made of a plant matter. Then the chemistry is also there. You would just grind up the organic rice hull and put it in little capsules. That's what we did. We made organic rice hull. So it was really great. So those are the two ways you make placebos. Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun stuff. And I encourage everyone to try placebos.
Yeah, and I had always gone with this whole idea of the sugar pill.
Yeah,
like that's what I had only ever heard of them being.
Yeah, and it's always been nicknamed a sugar pill. And there may have been a time in history when they actually made sugar pills, but there's no reason to buy sugar to make a pill nowadays. Yeah.
Well, and also that can alter your chemistry too, then, right?
Sugar,
like you guys are looking for something that does nothing, basically, to you besides add a regimen.
No interaction. Yeah, we don't even want you to get any nutrition from it. Just blank, blank, blank. And it's great. Now, I always in the early days of Nubellum, I would explain to people The really valuable thing about a blank pill is your body has no programming around what to do with a pill that's blank. Like if it really was sugar, your gut microbiome would notice it's sugar. And it would be eating it up, and it would be sending communications through the vagus nerve to your brain, and your brain would be going, and who God only knows what we're talking about, what your microbiome is talking about to your brain, but they talk. And we have a lot of research that shows that particularly with serotonin, which is a really important behavioral neurotransmitter, the microbiome can tell your brain whether or not you need more serotonin or you have plenty. And it communicates, and your brain can make changes physiologically to comfort. So there are real active, meaningful discussions between the bacteria in your stomach and your human brain. They're talking when you don't even know they're talking. They're communicating and sending messages. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
so
crazy.
This kind of reminds me. So so I was diagnosed with a polycystic ovarian syndrome. So basically, I have too much, my body thinks that I have enough estrogen, so then I make too much testosterone. And so the option was to either get back on birth control, which sounds awful to me. I never did well on it. My husband has a vasectomy. We're not trying to avoid pregnancy. We've pretty much done that, right? And then the other option that was more subtly mentioned after I probed was, well, you can go on the PCOS diet, which is gluten and dairy free, because basically you heal your gut health and you stop eating, inflammatory foods, then, you'll have this experience. And so I was like, okay, easy. And so I cut out gluten and dairy for this last December was 2 years, and I experienced a massive benefit from it. So then this just makes me wonder whether that's actually what it was. Because I dropped 45 pounds, didn't exercise, my skin cleared up, my hair grew back, like all of these things came through. And then as I hear you talk about the gut microbiome and all of these types of things, then it tells me that there was something that was working. So how do we determine whether it's because I thought it would work or whether it was because I actually pulled these things out of my diet, or both?
Yeah, well, first thing that we should all know as humans, anything that works that's healthy and we're not doing anything unhealthy that's for me. That's what I want to do. The first answer is it really doesn't matter as long as you're doing healthy things. When it matters is when I'm a little concerned that I'm not doing something healthy, like I'm taking Adderall. And there's a lot of evidence Adderall is not so good for human beings. And if I'm taking Adderall all the time and then I'm upping my dose, you kind of wonder, well, maybe I should find a better way to get what I'm trying to tamp down without the Adderall. So depending on the treatment, that maybe the question doesn't really matter. But I'm not a doctor. I have no idea about that condition, but I'm going to ask you a couple simple questions anyway. So what were the major symptoms that you knew something was wrong?
So I was having very painful periods. I was having cysts grow on my ovaries, and then they would burst and cause me a ton of pain. I had a lot of skin breakouts and acne. My hair was falling out of my hairline. It was basically a woman having too much testosterone.
Okay, so I'm going to put the pain in a separate category, because pain is one of those symptoms that is a suspect for either is controllable by your mind or isn't. It can go either way. So pain. Okay. But the other stuff, I'm just thinking, well, if I had cysts on my ovary, I would think there's something wrong. I didn't talk my way into getting cysts, right? If I'm getting pain, I might have talked myself into getting chronic pain. I had pain once, but I kept it going. I could talk myself into that. But cysts and breaking out, yet here's where the stress factor comes in. Because the stress factor in the human body is an expression of being in the fight or flight. Too long, too high, too much, too often, all that. So the more you're in fight or flight, the physical stress factor starts to permeate the other parts of your body. It's not just in the nerves. Like you just get a classic fight or flight, it's going to affect your heart rate and your blood pressure. Then those two things become conscious. You're noticing. And then you're going to react, and then you could even have a panic attack over something like that. And the panic attack is completely frontal cortex jumping down, going, I'm going to die, and a heart attack, So we don't know enough right now to say stress does or does not cause cysts. I don't know. Maybe there's some research going on. I don't know that stress causes pimples. But I do remember when I was in high school, the kids with the most pimples sometimes seem the most stressed out, but maybe because they had pimples, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, that would be enough to stress you out. You got bad acne and everyone's laughing at you. So which one does which? So I don't know. I mean, I don't have any way to even address a problem like that, but I can address the classic problems that the world has created: anxiety, depression, insomnia, chronic pain that doesn't go away, but we can't find the source when we do scans, when we do this, we do that. And then there are tools that can tell someone it's not what you think. For example, if I give you allergy test for a particular so-called allergen, we can know by looking at your skin whether you're really allergic to it. We just give you a little bit of the molecule, and if you don't get a red spot, you're not allergic to it. And so we can tell if things are you're allergic to this, allergic to that. But you're going into such a complex set of symptoms that only a molecular scientist would be able to help you, who's paired with a doctor. The good news is you're better. That's the good news.
Yeah.
You know, you're better. And so hopefully you're not having to take crazy drugs that keep you better, so-called thinking you're keeping better, you know.
No.
Yeah.
No, just stay away from
seriously.
gluten. That's all.
Yeah. And so, why introduce gluten if you don't have to? You know?
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
It's yummy. Yeah, it is that. And so now when we're talking about what Nubellum is doing, or, you know, you're launching this app, yes, in the next month or two, that will be, you know, you'll share the name as it gets, what's the word I want, unveiled, right?
Yeah. We don't want to tell everyone the name of the app because we don't want someone to run out there and whip up an app by the same name. You know, it's normal.
Yeah, of course.
But I will say, what does the app do? It's a really good chat about the app coming from the heavy duty stuff we just talked about. We just talked about some of your physical symptoms that sounded horrible, and the treatment you took, and the way they went away, and the way you're now in a lifestyle that you enjoy, including the gluten-free lifestyle, and you are better. Now, that would be something I would call a lot of heavy lifting. To get from the beginning to the end of that story, you had to work really hard. You had to try this, you had to adhere to protocols, you had to stop doing it right, start doing it right again, stop doing it right, start doing it right. You know, the whole episodes of your life that got you to the point where it was easy breezy and you didn't have to think about it. That's we call it Nubellum, the deep waters of healing. It takes work, it takes a lot of thinking, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of overtime sort of transferring the actions from conscious actions to unconscious actions. You know, in education, they often say that there's such a thing as unconscious incompetence. The guy, he's completely screwing up, but he doesn't know it. Then when he sees what not screwing up looks like, he's got conscious incompetence. And this is sort of an educational theory. Now, when he decides to change, he has conscious competence because he's doing the things that make him competent again. Conscious competence. He went from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. Now he's in conscious competence. But at some point, like when you really learn to play the guitar, you're the competence and you don't even know how you're doing it. You're unconsciously competent. And a typist, they're not thinking about anything. So the goal is really in healing to do the same thing, to move from, we're not going to use incompetence anymore because it's not the right word, but unconsciously unwell to consciously unwell to consciously well and then unconsciously well. And it's sort of a nice little path to take. So what we decided what worked best, the best ever to generate the brain's healing response, aka placebo response, was the shallow waters of healing.
So there we have part 1 with Carl Dietz. Next time will, of course, be part 2, where he really breaks down what their app is going to achieve and how they aim to do it. I hope you tune in for that. We are likely going to be going to 2 days a week for episodes soon, and so I hope you keep an eye out for that. Please subscribe and share this. Stay steady, and I will see you next time for part 2.